Do you ever drink a cup of coffee and feel anxious, jittery, foggy, or just off? Maybe it messes with your gut, or gives you a headache, or causes you to crash hours later. This experience is all too common, and most people blame the obvious culprit, caffeine. But what if caffeine isn't the real problem at all? What if the true issue that's preventing you from enjoying coffee is mold? You might be asking, how could mold be in my coffee? That doesn't make any sense. Coffee beans are roasted at high heat, which should kill off any living mold. And when you brew the grounds, you're using boiling hot water that also should remove any mold. On top of that, you've probably never seen any visible mold on your coffee beans. So how could there possibly be a mold problem with coffee? The real issue with coffee isn't mold, it's mycotoxins. Mycotoxins are toxic chemical compounds that are produced from certain molds. They aren't the mold itself, but rather mold waste products. Mold is the organism, and mycotoxins are the poisons that mold leaves behind. Mold produces mycotoxins to compete with other microbes. They help defend their food source and to survive stressful environments. Mycotoxins are good for mold, but bad for humans. There are many different types of mycotoxins, but the most common variety that is found in coffee is OTA. Humans can tolerate OTA, but issues come with low-level repeated exposure, the kind you would get from drinking coffee every day. The most common symptoms are brain fog, headaches, anxiety, or jitters, gut irritation, fatigue, and that hard crash after coffee. And these are all symptoms that most people immediately blame on caffeine. Luckily, most humans can tolerate small amounts of mycotoxins without severe complications. But anyone with compromised gut health, reduced detox capacity, prior mold exposure, high stress, and nervous system sensitivity could be much more affected. So if it's mycotoxins that are the issue, how do they end up in coffee in the first place? As we touched on, mycotoxins are a byproduct of mold. And what's mold? It's a type of fungus that grows by breaking down organic matter. Mold is normal and present virtually everywhere. The issue is when it grows where we don't want it to. So why does coffee have a mold problem in the first place? Because coffee grows in mold-friendly environments. Hot, humid, tropical climates with lots of rainfall, mold loves these conditions. The key danger point for coffee is after the coffee cherries are harvested. The beans are removed from the fruit and fermented. Then they must be dried to a safe moisture level. Drying can take days or even weeks. If the drying is too slow or uneven, mold can grow. This is the primary mold entry point. After drying, the beans are stored in bags or warehouses before export. If humidity creeps back in, mold can grow again, or previously dormant mold can reactivate. Then the beans spend weeks or months in shipping and transport. Shipping containers can trap heat and moisture, and temperature swings can cause condensation. This is where previously good beans can become infected. Finally, the beans are roasted, usually in the destination country where they will be consumed. When roasted, any remaining mold on the beans is killed. But wait, if roasting the beans kills off any mold, what's the problem? The mycotoxins. Roasting at high heat kills off the living mold, but not the toxic mycotoxins that are produced when mold grows during the drying and shipping of the coffee beans. This is the real issue with molding coffee. You can have perfectly good looking and smelling beans that show no sign of mold, and they can still be infected with mycotoxins. Even if you buy expensive or organic coffee, it can still have unhealthy levels of mycotoxins present. And it's the mycotoxins that produce the unwanted symptoms of brain fog, anxiety, and fatigue. Unfortunately, most coffee is never tested for mycotoxin levels. This is thanks to the commodity coffee system. If you want to avoid drinking coffee with mycotoxin exposure after hearing this, I don't blame you. First, we must back up and understand something: the commodity coffee system. Most of the world's coffee is grown by millions of small farmers scattered throughout the tropics. The coffee is sold into a global bulk market, which is priced on futures exchanges and purchased by coffee brokers in massive volumes. Farmers are paid based on weight, volume, and basic grade of the beans, not on mold testing, mycotoxin levels, or careful drying of the coffee. This system exists to prioritize speed, scale, and consistency, which leads to G coffee, reliable supply, and predictable pricing. This is how global food systems work, and it's a similar theme to the other videos we have made on its channel that cover industrial food systems. The issue with commodity and factory farming is that there's an incentive mismatch. Farmers are rewarded for harvesting quickly, moving volume, and getting beans to market fast. They aren't rewarded for extra drying days, slower fermentation, redrying after rain, or paying for toxin testing. Speed wins over perfection. This means that coffee beans are dried as fast as possible, storage times are long, and beans from one farm are often blended with others. Coffee beans are often graded visually and not routinely tested for mycotoxins. In fact, 90% of beans are never submitted for mycotoxin testing. If this is starting to sound daunting, don't worry, there are solutions. Now, I don't know about you, but I love a good cup of coffee. So where do we get clean, mold-free coffee in the first place? It starts with buying from a trusted source that lab tests every batch of beans. And that's exactly what we do with Rewild roast coffee from Lineage Provisions. We partner with small farms in Nicaragua that use regenerative shade-grown practices, working through certified organic and fair trade cooperatives. Every batch is third-party tested to ensure that there's no detectable mold, mycotoxins, glyphosate, or heavy metals. The coffee plants are grown under a native shade canopy with compost-only fertilization. Cover crops and fruit trees are used to foster biodiversity, and the soil is never tilled. After harvest, the beans are washed, fermented with wild native yeast, and slow-dried, a critical step for clean flavor and reducing contamination risk. This is the opposite of the commodity coffee system. If you want to learn more, you can check it out at lineageprovisions.com or through the link in the description. So if you've ever felt brain fog, fatigue, anxiety, or just felt off after drinking coffee, it might not be caffeine that's causing it. It might be from mycotoxins present in the coffee itself. The best way to reduce that risk is to buy coffee outside of the commodity system, from a source that handles beans carefully and third-party tests for mold and mycotoxins. This video is brought to you by Lineage Provisions.